Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here. I am glad to be here. And where are we this weekend? We've enjoyed this last weekend spending with some friends, Doug and Margaret. She goes by M, so Doug and M Mayarkuno in Lake Willie, South Carolina. And actually, we had a wonderful weekend with them. They cooked for us. They took really good care of us. And we got to meet their dogs and cats in their amazingly beautiful home and spend some time with them at the Seahawks Carolina Panther game. Oh my goodness. You know, it's kind of fun when we watch football nowadays. It's a game of act and react, isn't it? And how fast can you make choices and follow through with things? And, we live in a world right now, a world, a generation or several generations together where there have never been available to us the number of choices that we have. When do you make your first choice? The minute we wake up, we start making choices. And the choices we make us. Yes and no lead in opposite directions and determine the course of our lives. So choices are extremely important. Well, one of the great choices that we make is how we spend our tears, our time, our energy, our attention, and our resources. When you watch these game of sports and the game of act and react, we have the same thing. Think about it. An event happens, and then an emotion comes up. And we can either react to that emotion, which means we immediately just act, or we can respond to that emotion, which means that we stop and think about it and develop habits within that so that our response is one that strengthens the emotion, doesn't become an emotion of frustration or anger or some negative emotion, but actually can be transformed through gratitude into a positive emotion. So when I've talked in the past about the formula that E does not equal O, the event does not equal the outcome. E plus R equals O. And when you're talking about the R, it's not reaction, although it does determine the outcome. We want that R to be response to determine the outcome. You know, as you continue to practice these various characteristics of leadership, I've talked before, how do you become a great leader? And I'm talking about self-leadership. Really, you don't have to have stripes. If you have to have stripes on your shoulder to let everybody know you're a general, you don't deserve to be a general. So how do you develop characteristics of leadership? You practice, just like somebody that's going to be a star athlete, a star artist. You practice. And if you practice long enough, it becomes a habit. And if you protect that habit, ultimately it can become a trait, which is your character, part of your character. So imagine that you start practicing the habit of don't react, respond. And that means the event happens. So the emotion comes in, and then I think about it. So I learn to think about it. I practice thinking about it, putting that cushion in there so that I can respond in gratitude. I call that rigging the game of life. If we learn to respond in gratitude, it'll give us an advantage where we'll attract positive emotions to us, we'll impact others around us in a very positive way, and we will be able to have the success and the meaningfulness that we desire in our lives. So that's my message for this week. I always talk about going big, beginning in gratitude. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to rig life, and that's to respond in gratitude. Make this a great week. I so enjoy being with you. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.